But mainly some of the things that may seem like is a tension issue, which is not a tension issue. So the first thing I want to talk about is actually, let's just get the little bobbin case out. So I've got my bobbin case right here, and I'm going to just show you. You want to put this in the palm of your hand, just like this, and you want to pick it up. And if you can pick it up and it still sits in the palm of your hand, this is good tension on my bobbin. And I will leave this here like this, and from this, then I will adjust my top tension. So we're not going to get into that today, adjusting the top tension, but sometimes, you know, if we have thread fraying or thread breakage, you know, different things, skip stitches is one. And we might think, well, that is my tension. So you're adjusting your tension and you can't get it to stop what it's doing. Well, here are some little tips I want to give you to help you figure all that out. So, first of all, our bobbin area underneath here, in our bobbin area, we need to make sure that that is nice and clean. Get out all those little dust bunnies with a nylon brush. This will gather all those little dust bunnies. Get up there, clean it really good. Don't be afraid. After you've got it nice and clean, you want to go ahead and put a little drop of oil in your bobbin case. So every time I change my bobbin, I always clean it out and oil it. There has been a few times where I think, oh, I can run another bobbin. And then sometimes I have a piece of paper too. And just if there's any lint in there, and then I'll do the other side. If there's any lint in there, it should come out. Mine's pretty clean because I make sure that it's clean all the time, because I definitely don't want those little issues. So my bobbin area is cleaned with a nylon brush. It's oiled. And then I checked my bobbin case right here. And always make sure too that you are threaded correctly in your bobbin area once you put your thread in there. That's very important as well. Then we're going to put our bobbin right in there and we're going to hear it click. There it is. It's in. So everything is good with my bobbin. Every machine is different, so you can't adjust your top tension according to whatever somebody else's setting is. You're going to have to set it for your machine. Just keep that in mind. So another issue with skip stitches and maybe some fraying of thread or thread breakage. A lot of times our quilt top, we wind it too tight. So when it's wound too tight, when that needle goes down into the quilt, the batting and the backing, it's coming up and it's kind of pulling and the thread is dragging. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that your quilt top is not real tight. So you don't want to bounce a quarter on it and let that quarter bounce. So take your index finger, stick it underneath your quilt, anywhere on your quilt, and pull up with it. So it's piking right here. I have a little mountain right here because I have my finger poked in there. I'm going to grab my finger, and if I can grab, and I need to loosen mine, by the way, it is too tight because I can only grab this much of my fingertip. All right? You want to be able to grab almost the whole fingernail. All right? If you have long fingernails, you've got to take that into consideration too. But this, I should be able to grab this much of my finger. So I'm going to loosen my ratchets one click. Let's loosen one click. And then I'm going to put my finger in there again and I'm going to move my machine out of the way. And now I can grab my whole fingernail. Now, if I need to loosen that again because I can't grab my fingernail, then I will do so. So remember, do not wind real tight. Another thing too are your clamps. You don't want your clamps real tight either. You want them taut, but not tight. If you're pulling your clamps real tight and the side of your quilt looks like it's distorted, then your clamps are too tight. So those are just a few things right there to look for if you're having issues with your not your tension, but you're having issues with fraying, thread breakage, skip stitches, things like that. These are things to look at before you start resetting your tension. Another thing too is make sure that your machine is threaded correctly. Whenever you have a thread breakage, your thread can jump out of your tension. It can jump out of any one of these threading areas here. I don't know what they're all called, but hopefully you know what I'm talking about. So make sure your machine is threaded correctly. That's very important. And make sure that this little metal piece right here in your tension, when you pull on your thread, it moves. That's the little lever bar right there. It moves. All right. And if you can do that and make sure that everything is correct, even to the other things here, and also make sure that everything is nice. There is a little screw right here that holds the needle in on my machine. You can't see it because my camera is turned around and the handlebars are in the way. But there's a little screw where you tighten it for the needle. Now, sometimes my thread gets wrapped up around that. Look for that. If your thread is getting wrapped up around that, that can be causing some issues as well. So always check on that also. So I think that pretty much covers it. As far as checking everything, but I do want to go over a couple more things, I think. All right, so I have found myself that if I'm quilting with petites, I will use a larger needle. So right now, this is cotton. There are no petites in this quilt, and it's making it very easy. So I have an 18 size needle for my 40 weight thread. Omni is what I'm using right now. Omni 40 weight. And the 18 size needle fits very, very well. So with that, but if there was petites in this quilt, a lot of them, sometimes you might have a petite here and a petite there in a quilt, and that's fine. I don't find a lot of issues with something like that, but if I did, then I would probably see what I need to do to fix that. So but I'll use a size 20 needle when I'm dealing with petites. I've also quilted quilts where it's cotton on the top, all cotton on the top, but the backing is a petite. So you can still have issues because of that petite. So I'm still going to use that larger needle to take care of that. Another thing is your needle. Always check your needle. So the needles, there is a little groove in the needle, and you can actually, let me see if I can, there it is. I can put my fingernail, my thumbnail, right through that groove. Now that groove goes to the front when you're changing your needles. That groove should be facing you when you're changing the needle in your machine. And if it's not, that needle's in wrong, and that's going to cause issues as well. Also, if you're using a slick thread, like a glide thread, Iris, just to name a couple of them. But if you're using a slick thread, sometimes, you know, your tension is set really nice. Everything's working with with my regular Omni thread, which is a polyester thread. But then I put that glide in there. Sometimes I have issues, and I figured out that I do need to adjust my tension when I change different thread types. But with glide, let me move this over here. When I'm using glide or any kind of shiny, slippery thread, I have this piece of batting right here, and all it is, I've cut one here. It's a piece of batting like this. It's not very big. And what I did is I put a drop of glue on one side, just one drop, and then I put it together like this, and I let it dry. So for this particular machine, I'm able to do this. So it's a little pocket there, okay? And then I take this and I put it up in, this one's a little wide, so it might be best. Let me just narrow this down a little bit, because you don't need very much of this. So I narrowed it down, still has the pocket in it. And then you're gonna put it, let me unthread this. Oh, come on now. Here we go. Okay. And then you're going to take this and you're going to put it right up in here and just let it sit right there. It's just going to sit right here. And then you're going to put your thread up over that. Now I have Omni in here, but if I had glide, that's exactly what I would do. And what that does is it causes just a little bit of drag on that slick thread. And it has helped me tremendously with my shredding of thread or breakage or whatever issues I might have. And then I can set my tension the way I need it. So if you can keep those things in mind, this is very important. We don't want to wind our quilt top real tight on our table, on our machine. We don't want to clamp our clamps real tight to where the end of our quilt is distorted. Remember to always check your bobbin, okay? And also too, one more thing I missed is your bobbin. When you put your bobbin in, let me line this up. Okay, so your bobbin, you have this little tail right here, and this tail facing me looks like either a 9 or a Q. All right, and then I'm going to put that into my bobbin case with the tail over here, and then I'm going to thread it through there and make sure it catches. Make sure it catches. And then I'm going to test it, and I'm going to test it every time, and it comes up a little bit. Now this is a new bobbin, and if that happens, just take some thread out. I don't know how much you might need to take out, but you know, you can figure that out. Maybe you've got too much thread wound on your bobbin. And see how much better that is? Oops, sorry about that. Much better. Whoa, much better there. So just if there's a lot of thread wound on a bobbin, and not just on a one that you wind, but some of those pre-wound bobbins as well, we'll have that also. Another thing that might look like a tension issue that really isn't could be, are you using very contrasting thread in your bobbin and then contrasting thread in your top? So what I mean by that is, let's just say we're using a black thread on top and a white thread on the bobbin, because the backing is white and there's a lot of black on the top. Then you're going to run across some issues by seeing some of those, what they call little pokies, where the bobbin thread pokes up a little bit on the top, or the black thread pokes up, the top thread will poke up a little bit on the bottom of the quilt. So I always, always, always use the same color of thread in my bobbin that I use on the top tension, the thread on the top. Because there's sometimes you might just see that, and it might stitch just fine and everything looks beautiful, but then all of a sudden you might have this little pokey that shows. So I always use the same color. Another thing too is speed. Okay, if you're going real fast with your machine, almost out of control, real fast and real jerky, you're real jerky with it, it can look like you have some issues as well with your tension, and that's not the case. You've got to be very smooth with this machine, very, very smooth. And it's not a race anyway. We're not trying to get this done in an hour or whatever. So make sure you move your machine nice and smooth. I have found that out myself. I get carried away, especially if I'm in manual mode, and I just start going way too fast beyond the speed. And what's happening is the machine is trying to catch up with how fast you're going, and you can really see a lot of those issues when you are in regulated, but you can also see them in manual as well. So you need to find the proper speed to move the machine when that needle is going up and down. So I hope that this was very helpful for you. And just practice, and if you are having issues, just remember some of these tips and try to get those fixed and move on. So like and subscribe, and I do have a website, Jackie's Machine Quilting. Check it out, and thank you so much for watching.